Arms Race has been a ton of fun for me, and I'm sure a lot of you have been enjoying it as well, but GK is a ship that I really haven't played that much in random battles as of late, but it sure does feel like Arms Race allows this ship to really stretch its legs and really take advantage of all of the strengths that the GK has to offer. And this build is weird. It's a strange build. I'll talk about that more at the end of the video when I show it to you. I've in fact pivoted away from this build already, but it can work, and that is a no concealment build, all in on tanking and some secondary range and accuracy, of course, as well. But this Arms Race mode is a ton of fun just because it really does incentivize people pushing in. I have been a little frustrated with some of the steamrolls that happen, but the steamrolls happen a little bit later on in the game after one team or another collects all the buffs. So it really does value and reward early game aggression. And given that there are a lot of heal buffs and even just straight ship HP buffs, there are ways of playing a very aggressive battleship to start with without just feeling like you're throwing your entire ability to play the game down the drain. You know, it's one of those things that oftentimes gets punished really hard in random battles. Get aggressive early, you lose half your HP, and you know, maybe eat a couple torpedoes, that kind of thing, and then you can't heal it back. And that is somewhat the case here as well, but that constant healing that you can get, as well as the permanent upgrade to your HP, it's very, very nice to have, and it can allow you to play a little bit more aggressively without feeling like you're just getting hard countered. And that's what we're going to do here. Of course, we end up catching this daring out a little bit. I think that was more our Tashkent that's getting the spotting on this guy, but we will gladly take it. I've got a Vigilance build here as well, so along with our Hydro, we actually spot torpedoes out to a ridiculous range. I think it's like 5 or 6 kilometers. It's kind of nuts how far away you can spot torpedoes. And of course, that's a very good thing on GK. One of the major weaknesses is your lack of torpedo protection. It really does come back to bite you, considering you do rely on your Hydro and ability to push in to get a lot of damage out of the ship, since you do have somewhat poor dispersion and not the best long-range gun performance. You do want to push in for sure. You'll notice we also have the long-range secondaries, 12.5 kilometer range. I don't know if that's quite the right build. I actually have two builds that I generally run on my GK, which one of them is this full secondary tank build, and the other one is more of a stealthy dispersion focused build. I'll show them both to you at the end. I have this it's unfortunate, but that is how I end up running my GK a lot of the time. I have spent a ton of Elite Commander XP on retraining my ships, especially these secondary commander builds. It really depends on the day and how things go. I struggle to push in sometimes with the more stealthy approach build. So then I think, well, if I'm struggling to push in and I'm just constantly spotted anyway, why don't I just go all in on these healing buffs and these extra tankiness buffs and just give up concealment? And then I flop back and forth depending on how much they work. So for me, having two builds is really nice, but I get that that's not necessarily a reasonable option for most of you. So I would recommend the stealth build more often than not, that I'll show at the end. But this all-out tankiness build can work really, really well in Arms Race. We're getting a ton of extra healing. I actually played this game basically right on patch day, so I don't actually have my mods installed. Normally I'd have one that would show me the healing that I can possibly get out of my heals, and well, it would say I'd have around 22,000 HP of healing, and that's before we get any of these health buffs. So we're already up to 116,000 HP, and we're starting to feel a bit like a Hanover with, again, admittedly small guns, but that extra HP goes a long way into the ship feeling like it can tank and push in. Of course, we are pushing into a carrier, and that is something you definitely struggle with in the GK. The nice thing, of course, about Arms Race is you're not going to be facing submarines at all. It's one of the main reasons I've been playing so much of it recently. As much as I can get a little bit annoyed with the way the buffs turn out, and if my teammates don't actually go for them, it is nice to just be guaranteed to not have to face off against submarines. There are the odd carriers every once in a while. That is an unfortunate reality of things. They did allow carriers in, but we're going to see if we can push into this guy. Of course, Being right next to a carrier means they just get infinite strikes off on us incredibly quickly. So at least it's not the Nakamov, which again gets that massive alpha and incredibly fast reload of planes, right? So we're not quite in the worst possible situation we could be in, but it's not looking very good considering this GK still has 47,000 HP. So how are we going to manage this? Well, we have to just accept that the CV is getting these crossfires on us for free, and there's really not much we can do. So we want to mitigate and deal with as much of the damage as possible from the Kurfurst. We want to try, at least, to keep enough HP to just tank through the CV strikes and get around his broadside. It was really unfortunate in the moment that the attach count was unable to get the YOLO off on the midway. I was really kind of counting on that in this push, so I kind of just thought I would be dead in this one, but it's worth a shot to try anyway. We're getting a decent amount of secondaries, but I think you can tell that this Kurfurst has a full secondary build, given he has the red tracers. That means he has Lucians, so he's going to get that extra 10% DPM on those secondaries as well, because he definitely has at least 100 hits already on us alone. So it's not going to be very good for us, and we've used our damage con now. So we're liable to eating some fires here. He's even shooting HE, so we're getting very lucky to not have to deal with too many fires. CV again getting those rocket planes, free fires, free damage, that kind of thing, and more torpedo planes. It just never ends. But we're nearly around the corner. We nearly have the angle, so we're gonna pop our plane just to get a little bit of early spotting yet even, because the way spotting works is you need to at least see half of the enemy ship. Really, spotting happens at the middle section of each ship, so we could probably shoot at the midway already. We just can't see him yet. Popping our plane gives us that vision. There we go. He shows up. You can see we can easily Citadel him. And we could have shot him a lot sooner, but the spotting system is a little bit limited in what it allows to do with some of these bigger ships. And now we could go for a ram, but rams are kind of lame. And this Kurfurst has tried to stop to prevent that ram. So we can just give him a good old drive-by here. Now, something you want to do for sure is early turn your turrets. Kurfurst, of course, having those poor rear firing angles kind of helps it in this scenario when you're trying to do these drive-bys, because it already essentially pre-turns your turrets. And getting into this view, of course, using your scroll wheel to zoom in and not go fully zoomed in, right? We don't need that extra zoom. We want to get as much view as possible to get the best shots off we possibly can. Secondaries, of course, are going to be able to full pin the stern of a GK. It's only 32 millimeters, and we get the kill. So we managed to take out the midway and the Kurfurst there. Managed to live through that. And that, I think, might be down to this tank build. It was a ton of fun for me to play, so definitely give Arms Race a look if you're getting a little tired of random battles, or if you're wanting to grind up to the Kurfurst or the Kaaba. Of course, bringing your tier 9s into Arms Race and grinding out some of that XP is a really, really good idea. I've definitely seen a lot of people doing it, and they're very smart to do that. So an awesome game, and I hope you enjoyed watching that one. So to start with the build that I was actually running in that battle, not the one that I'm currently wanting to play, this is it, actually. We're taking extra healing, we're taking our secondary skills, we're taking some damage output from Adrenaline Rush, and because the Arms Race mode gives you so much healing and ability to tank damage, you can get a lot more potential damage than in a normal random battles game, especially if you get those just base ship HP buffs. This thing is awesome to have. So getting your heal back, I've definitely had my heal in less than 60 seconds, maybe 55 or so seconds on a GK. And keep in mind, this heal is pretty beefy. We're taking Vigilance, of course, getting that extra little bit of vision, as well as some more torpedo protection. It's just great to have on a GK. Gun Feeder, because of course small guns, sometimes you need to swap to the HE. An Emergency Repair Specialist, again, trying to get to those good consumables a little bit sooner. And the equipment doesn't quite look like this. I was actually running the ship consumables upgrade, again buffing that heal to be super beefy, and as a consequence that also gives us extra damage control party time. You were noticing I was getting around what, a 25 or so second damage control party, maybe a little longer than that. Pretty hilarious given that you run damage control party mod 1 as well. And again, I was running secondaries, trying to get as much secondary brawling kind of gameplay as possible. I'm also running the legendary mod or unique upgrade. I kind of just run this all the time because I can get extra plane from, or extra range from the spotting aircraft from the plane. And this just buffs my secondaries and my main guns, and it really importantly doesn't nerf my turret traverse. So that's how we get those brawls, and our turrets turn pretty quickly still. In that game, I was also running the 16-inch guns instead of the 16.5-inch guns, the 420s. But when I run the dispersion build, I want the extra damage output. Whereas when I know I'm running the secondary build, I think the reload is just really nice to have, especially because you're just not really focused on the accuracy, just focused on spamming shells out, that kind of thing. Maybe that's the wrong idea, but that was the build that I was running. Now, let's talk about what I've kind of swapped to, or my secondary build on the GK. We're still running the secondary upgrades, but we're really going for the concealment and fire prevention. We're trying to get closer. We're trying to make use of our main guns a little bit more. Once I have 21 points on this guy, I will get Adrenaline Rush, if you're wondering. That, I think, is probably the way to go with that one. And, of course, we've swapped over to Concealment, and we've swapped over to Aiming Systems Mod 1. Those are the big changes, really. We're getting pretty decent reload still, given that we're running Legendary Mod. And we still get 11-kilometer range secondaries, which is generally probably good enough. And that's probably the better hybrid build, I would say. Some people even drop the secondary range on the captain, and then they go for Adrenaline Rush and Basics of Survivability to get even better close range, tankiness, that kind of thing. And that can work too, for sure, because you still get, I think, around 9-ish kilometer secondary range, maybe a little bit more than that, actually. And realistically, if you're in a brawl, you're probably within 9 kilometers anyway. At least that's the thought process. And I could see that working as well. There's a lot of different ways to build the Kurfurst. And these are really the two builds that I've liked playing. Kind of the extra accuracy if I'm trying to do that, or just give everything up that's positive about the accuracy build and go for the full secondary tanky meme build. And that build kind of works well in Arms Race. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. It was very fun for me to record and play this one for sure. So hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.